Hey, with you evening story channel, I post new interesting stories every day. Subscribe and click the bell to not miss it. Before kicking out his old wife, John asked her to thoroughly clean the apartment and cook a delicious dinner. In this way, John wanted to make a good impression on Molly as his future wife. A good impression, and he couldn't think of anything smarter than to do it at the expense of the wife he'd decided to break up with. It's been a long time since the divorce. John is still trying to prove something and demands from Lisa some kind of explanation, some kind of compensation for losses incurred. Many of his acquaintances even now are sure that he did everything right, and most importantly, according to the law, because according to the law, she was still his wife. Friends said they were not divorced at the time. He had the right to do so. His conscience was clear. She was living on his property. Then what claim could John have against her? None. If we were him, we'd do the same. It's all her fault. Lisa's the one to blame. And John himself, when he started this mess, had no idea it would turn out like this. His own scheme will have such sad consequences for himself. Moreover, the trick he had planned had seemed to him then nothing more than a harmless and very clever trick. And now he could not understand. Why had such a flawless plan failed miserably? John would probably do things differently today. He'd just break up with Lisa and be done with it. But then he decided to get clever. No, I can't just kick her out, he reasoned. There's nothing clever about it. And it would be different if she worked for me a little longer before she left. I'm not doing anything like that, John reassured him. My conscience will simply ask my own wife to fulfill her marital duties one last time. What's immoral about that? After all, we're not divorced yet, and legally she's my wife, and she lives in my apartment. So cleaning, laundry, and cooking are her responsibility. I can't make another woman do it. She's not my wife, nor can I allow that this other woman, coming to visit me for the first time, would find the apartment dirty and in the bathroom, would find a mountain of unwashed laundry, and she would not be able to enjoy a delicious dinner together with me. After all, my Lisa is still my delicious cook. That's a very wise thing to do, he thought. Thanks to him, Molly will already now realize the conditions in which I used to live. The laundry is slowly drying on the balcony. The apartment is in perfect order, and there's a delicious dinner on the table. And when all the nuances of the coming plan were finally settled in his head, he set about implementing it. Lisa, we'll have guests tonight at 7 p.m., John said, early in the morning, looking his wife straight in the eye. Very serious people. I'm sorry I didn't warn you sooner. I just found out myself. But our whole future depends on how we accept them. Lisa took her husband's words very seriously. She had no idea that her husband had already decided to get rid of her. Our future with John is at stake, Lisa thought, so we must do our best not to let our husband down. After all, serious people are coming to visit us, on whom, as he says, everything depends. And Lisa set to work, and John was there to give her valuable instructions. Molly must see me in all my splendor, he reasoned. The apartment is clean and tidy, a delicious dinner on the table. And Lisa would do it all. Is it my fault that I don't love her anymore? That my heart belongs to someone else? No, of course, it's not my fault. It took Lisa 3 hours to clean the apartment. John was there the whole time, giving valuable instructions and helpful hints. Sometimes he only went to the bathroom, but even then, he felt the urgent need to do so. After she had tidied up the apartment, washed and hung the laundry, she went to the store alone and started cooking dinner. And so at 6 p.m., when everything was ready and there was exactly 1 hour left before the guests arrived, John said that he no longer needed her services and, in general, for divorce. Pack your things. And don't let your spirit be in my apartment, he said calmly. Lisa, of course, was somewhat confused by what she had heard. She asked her husband some questions, but she did not hear anything clear in response. She only realized that she was no longer loved or wanted to see him. I'll give you half an hour for everything, John said, looking at his watch. Lisa did not ask anything more. Silently, she packed up and left. Even John thought suspiciously as he closed the door behind her. Anybody else would have been in her place. What else, though, if the apartment wasn't hers? She wasn't even registered here. And John forgot about Lisa. He remembered that he was in love with Molly, and all his thoughts were that in half an hour she would come to him. Here, he said, showing her the apartment. This is where I live. Your wife? Molly asked. She left me. John answered calmly. She met someone else, fell in love, ran away. But I don't blame her. Who am I to blame her? I realize that women are weak creatures who can't control their feelings, and as a result, men suffer. Please, the table's been set for a long time. Did she just leave like that? Molly was surprised. I wish. John replied sadly. She didn't just leave. She cleaned the apartment, did all the laundry, cooked dinner, and only then left. Why would she do that? My guess is she is acutely aware of her guilt. It's understandable that she's worried. She's got a conscience, so she's probably apologizing in this way. She wasn't a bad hostess, but she had fallen in love with someone else. John made a sad face and was silent for a while. Why are we all talking about her? He went on as if realizing it. She's in the past, and we have a happy future ahead of us. Isn't that right? Please come to the table. Let me take care of you. Both of them were very hungry. They greedily devoured the food and drink. And what happened next was more than mundane. Dinner was over quickly enough. In fact, it hadn't even started. They had time to eat cold appetizers and even had some hot food. But they didn't get to dessert. Why not? Because when Lisa was cleaning up before she went to the store, she heard John talking to Molly on the phone. From the conversation, she realized that only she would clean the apartment, do the laundry on the balcony, cook everything, and set the table, and she would be kicked out of the house for good. Of course, John didn't tell Molly any of this. He told her that his wife had left him, and he was waiting for Molly at home. At 7 o'clock sharp, and Lisa figured it out right away. You stupid John. She thought she couldn't even be mad at you. You can't just tell me you don't love me. So he'd play games. Why? I'll have to punish not only you, but also your guest. I have to go out scared, said Molly, who first wanted to go to the bathroom from the room to the right, and the second door to the left, said John. Molly ran out, and a minute later John felt the same way. But there was only one restroom in the house, and yet all the plumbing in the apartment didn't work. What had Lisa done? No one knew except that the water wasn't running. It wasn't hard for Lisa. She had graduated from the Building Institute and was a good specialist in technical building and plumbing. Molly, open up. I really have to, shouted John. How much longer? What took you so long? Is something wrong? Open up immediately. Otherwise, I'll just break the door down. The evening was no longer peaceful. I need to shout outside the door to Molly, but there's no water. There's nothing here, not even toilet paper. Get me something. What can I get you? Yelled John. I don't know what you're talking about. But believe me, sweetheart, I need some too. Open up now. And that's when the lights went out in the apartment. Molly screamed in fright. John, supporting himself from behind, rushed to the door to get out of the apartment and get to the electric box. But then it became clear that the apartment could not be opened. Something had happened to the key lock. I can't do it anymore, he shouted, standing in the dark at the front door. What did Molly yell back? I didn't understand. I can't anymore, screamed John and burst into the bathroom before the bathroom. He didn't make it to the room, because first of all, it was dark. Secondly, there was no more strength to endure, so he hit the corner in the darkness. The walls fell and, of course, lost the strength to hold back, and he no longer entered the bathroom, but crawled in quietly. But he crawled there. And then what? No water. John found the strength to crawl into the bathroom and undress there. That was all he could think of at the moment when he felt a little calmer and a little lighter inside. He stepped out of the bathroom and walked at a groping pace to the linen closet. But the closet turned out to be locked, and there was no key. He went to the balcony, but everything was damp there, and he had to put on damp clothes. Well, what to do? Because at that time, the specialists who had to open the front door were knocking on the apartment. John managed to get them on the phone. They opened the door. John went to the electrical box, turned on the lights, and soon the plumbers came, and the water supply in the apartment was restored. Molly left about an hour later, when she could get herself cleaned up. She never saw John again. It was his own fault. Lisa justified herself in court when they were already divorced, and the case for moral compensation was being heard. Why didn't he explain himself to me nicely? What's the problem? I would have just left. It's a shame. But I would have just walked away. But he was being sneaky. He lied to me about some serious guests he was expecting. Although in fact he was not expecting any serious guests, but just invited another woman to visit and wanted to impress her at my expense. But I didn't know any of this at the time, so I enthusiastically got down to business. And then he locked himself in the bathroom, and I overheard him talking to Molly, and it all became clear to me. I wanted to put sleeping pills in the drinks and laxatives in the food. Then I thought it wouldn't be as much fun. So I limited myself to laxatives in both the food and the drinks. Then I shut off the water supply to the apartment, and then listened to what she already knew and left the apartment with a feeling of a job well done. Waited until Molly came in and locked the door and broke the key, leaving it in the lock. And when she heard the noise in the apartment, she just turned off the light. A woman with a grudge can do a lot of things.